Hi there, come on in. I'm Fred Trost, and I have our wildlife expert, Glen Duderer, here from Michigan State University. Let's get a close-up here on this little critter that he has. Do you know what it is? Well, stay tuned. You're going to find out in just a minute because it's Thursday night and time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in this state of Michigan.
Well, maybe you've seen these little creatures around your yard. What is it, Glenn?
Well, this is a 13-lined ground squirrel, and sometimes that's just shortened to striped ground squirrel. And in Michigan, most often it's just called gopher, but it's really not a gopher. It's a member of the squirrel family.
Well, this one, let's clarify, is not a full-sized, full-grown.
Right.
It's just a baby. How old is it?
Well, I would estimate it's probably about 4 to 5 weeks old, and you can see there.
Let's not have squirrels all over the place. You have a couple more. Why don't we put them in the
Okay. These were
aquarium here?
apparently Mom was killed by a milling machine, and these were taken off the ground. They were near starved, and so we raised them so that they could be seen on the show. And you can see why they're members of the squirrel family. Get a close-up here. You can see the tail is up and fluffy. And the scientific name for squirrels is Sciurus, and Sciurus means umbrella tail. And but of course these are not tree squirrels; they're ground squirrels. And this, I think these little guys will demonstrate that for us. There they go.
Right underneath the blanket.
Right under the blanket.
That's their instinct. Well, let's go to a couple slides here to talk about some squirrel-like creatures anyway that people might get confused. There we have what's called a pocket gopher.
Yeah, now this is a genuine gopher, and this is the plains gopher. And gophers don't occur in Michigan, or Dr. Baker, our mammologist, says if they do, they're in extreme southwest Michigan or extreme western upper peninsula.
Okay, well, another relative, we have these all over, are fox squirrel.
Okay, and this
are these closely related to the 13-line ground squirrel?
Yes, of course, this is an arboreal squirrel, a tree squirrel, and the ground-dwelling squirrels are more closely related, but this is the same family.
Okay, and then out west they have the prairie dogs.
Right, and these are closely related. This is a burrowing, ground-dwelling squirrel. Right.
But the most closely related of all that we have here that people would recognize is a chipmunk.
Right, and notice it has stripes too, but just the black and cream-colored stripes, whereas these little guys have the solid stripes and the broken stripes. And even though they're western and northern animals, I have an affection for them, and I guess you can guess from my accent. These are Confederate squirrels because of their stars and their bars.
That's right, but they're called 13-line ground squirrels, but I actually don't count 13 lines.
No, they're not.
Oh, just a figure of speech.
Speech, right.
Maybe the 13 colonies at one time or something like
Perhaps
that.
like that.
Who knows? Anyway, the ears are quite small. Is that from running through the
Yeah, if you're going to live in a burrow, you don't need great big ears. And remember, these guys are also hibernators and hibernate from October to April. So they spend most of their life underground, either asleep or tunneling or storing food.
Now, they catch a lot of blame, Glenn, for, tearing up yards.
Well, sometimes they deserve it, but a lot of times they don't. You know, where that burrow is where you're walking, obviously you don't want them, but most of the times all they do is just make a hole in the ground, and if you rake the dirt away, you use it as a top dressing, and that...
Where the heck are they in here?
They're down here.
Okay, so you rake the dirt away. There they are.
There they are, making a burrow out of the towel.
If you rake that dirt away...
then all you have is a small hole that the grass grows over, and you'd never know they were in the lawn.
So they don't do the damage of moles?
No, not at all. But in a fruit orchard where they're burrowing next to the roots of a fruit tree, yes, they can cause damage. And wildlife biologists know them as nest predators.
Let's see what they eat here. They're seed eaters, for one thing.
We refer to them as spermophils or seed lovers, which they are, but they're also opportunists, so they'll take insects, small mice, moles, and birds' eggs.
Birds' eggs?
Birds' eggs. And in a duck marsh, they can also cause havoc by feeding on duck eggs. So.
Wow. The interesting little creatures like this You think they're so cute, and we come upon it time and time again in wildlife. They do cause damage. They a significant predator on duck eggs, sometimes up in Canada.
Yes,
in these areas.
primarily in those areas.
Well, this is it, the 13 lined ground squirrel. Glenn, thanks a lot for that. Can't wait for next week to see what you bring us in. Now I have a letter. Let's get on to some fish stories. Talk to our fishing man here, Ned Fogel from the Fisheries Division of the DNR. I got a letter from Dick Sosick from St. Ignace, and he wrote me, he said, I have a couple of true fish stories that happened to me within the first week of pike season this year. Both incidents involved fishing in 6 to 10 feet of water in a canoe with a bobber near shore in Upper Michigan. On the opening day of pike season, my bobber went down. While reeling in my line, I discovered my line had broken off with no bobber in sight. About an hour later, my brother spotted the bobber surfacing about 100 yards away from where it first went down. We went after it, and by casting, I finally caught a hold of the line and brought the exhausted pike in. He can top it. On Thursday, May 20th, while fishing in the same area, my bobber went down. When I reeled in my line, I discovered that I had 2 pike on one line with 1 hook. One pike had my bait, while the other was tangled in the line around his mouth and gills near the bobber. By the way, on both days, Dick Sosick said, I caught my limit within a few hours.
I'd like to have his luck.
I certainly would. Do you have any strange fish stories we can talk about, Ned?
I think we've got a couple on the table here that are pretty good.
This is an unusual fish, Ned. A whitefish. First time you ever brought a live whitefish down to us.
How about that? Blonde catfish.
A blonde catfish. Well, here's the angler who really gave us a call on this, called everybody in town, said, I caught an albino catfish. This is Will Rurick from Corona. Where were you fishing, Will?
Shiawassee River.
And you hauled in this channel cat. Is that what it is, Ned? A channel cat?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a respectable channel cat right there.
It's a good size. This is a good eating size.
But it is definitely an albino, no question about that.
See the pink eyes. You can actually see the blood veins and arteries and that in the fins. There's no pigment at all, as in the normally colored channel cat, which is gray and has dark specks on it. No pigment on it.
Well, it's amazing that a white catfish, it would have been white from birth, right?
Right.
Would have survived to this size without something spotting it in the weeds and scarfing it up.
Well, the chances are in the batch of eggs that were spawned, there were more than one, and so possibly then it escaped until it got large enough. When they start getting this size, they wouldn't have too many predators that would bother them.
How big do channel cats get in Michigan?
Well, in Michigan, our state record is 47 pounds, 8 ounces. It's taken from the Maple River.
That's a dandy one.
It's good size. They get a little bit larger than that. The world record is 57 pounds, I believe, or somewhere.
And a fine eating fish as well. What are you going to do with this, Will?
Take it to Detroit Zoo.
You mean maybe our Channel 56 viewers can go down to the Detroit Zoo and see this fish? That would be great. Have you named it yet?
No,
An unnamed. How long have you had it?
since Friday.
These channel cats must survive in not a great deal of oxygenated water.
Well, they have the ability to withstand low oxygen in the water. Although they are not a warm water species such as carp or that, they are more of a cool water species. They like cooler water, but they do have the ability to tolerate low oxygen.
And a fine tasting fish for sure. I really enjoy eating catfish. And this is what you caught it on. Were you fishing for catfish?
No, I was fishing for carp.
For carp?
Yeah.
You eat carp, smoke them?
No,
They're good that way.
I just let them go
So why do you fish for them?
for experience.
Do they good fighters, you think?
Yeah, they're not too bad fighters.
Well, I tell you, people who haven't caught carp, don't really realize what they're getting into. What's the biggest carp you've ever caught?
22 pound.
Boy, a 22-pound carp. This guy's caught some big fish. How long does it take to haul in a 22-pound carp?
About 25 minutes.
Well, that's a dandy battle for anybody, for sure. Will you catch them on just a bell sinker, about a foot from the 2-aught hook? What do you use for bait?
Night crawlers.
A gob of them?
No, just one.
How many times do you hook it? The crawler.
About 5 times.
You wad it up?
Yeah.
Watch the show next week. We're going to have a guy in showing us how to catch walleye. It says you only hook them once. But that's another story, all in itself. Well, Will, that's a terrific story. I'm glad you called us all up, everybody in town, to tell us you had this albino catfish. Congratulations. A terrific fish. Well, Ned, it is not a master angler fish.
No, but it's certainly an unusual
It
fish.
certainly is. But right now, let's move on to some master angler fish in our weekly trophy report. Jim Cowdery from Davisburg wrote me a letter with his picture of a largemouth bass that weighed in at 6 pounds 11 ounces, but that was 3 days after he caught it. Probably would have been a 7-pounder if he would have taken it to a certified scale right away. But Jim was fishing in the intermediate string of lakes, Benway Lake to be exact, a few weeks ago, 7 in the morning, casting a half-ounce Supreme Black Spinner bait just outside the lily pads. He's a very proud member of the Oakland County Bass Anglers. Now, it's not too often you see a perch this size, belly full of eggs on that big female, 1 pound 15 ounces, caught by Scott Dupre of Lapeer. Scott was fishing in Lake Michigan off Allegan County, casting a little Cleo for salmon or trout. That's right, he caught this perch on a little Cleo. Who says they won't hit spoons? You recognize this fish? It's a bowfin or dogfish, all 8 pounds 15 ounces, and if you haven't caught one before, they fight like crazy. Just ask 9-year-old Ricky Schmell of North Muskegon. Fishing off a dock just after daybreak with a minnow, he had a fight on his hands. Not a glamour fish maybe, but it puts on a battle that puts many species to shame, and over 7 pounds makes it a Master Angler trophy for Ricky. Now, this is a glamour fish to most people, a Great Lakes muskie, caught a little over a week ago in Lake St. Clair, trolling a perch believer at 4 in the afternoon. Any muskie over 20 pounds qualifies for the DNR's Master Angler program and would give you, like Doug Clinton from Sterling Heights, a shoulder patch and recognition as a Michigan Master Angler. And on the opening day of pike season, Henry Hall of East Detroit was trolling a Huron herring spoon on a flat line off Port Hope in Lake Huron. His Master Angler form said it took him from 3 until 4:45 in the afternoon to boat this nearly 20-pound Great Lakes brown. Well, now that he's got it, he's going to hang on to it. So let's make Henry our Michigan Outdoors Master Angler of the Week. I never get tired of looking at trophy fish, and wildlife films, the things that we do on this show, Ed, I just enjoy it just to beat the band. I'll tell you, another thing I enjoy is wildlife films, and fortunately I have the pleasure of being the head judge in the International Wildlife Foundation Film Festival. I've seen over 80 films that have been entered so far this year, and this festival is coming up next weekend, not this weekend, the Hyatt Regency in Dearborn. And to acquaint you folks who aren't familiar with some of these wildlife films from around the world, I want to show you a sample of the type of film you'll be able to see.
The sand is dry. Rainfall is rare. In some areas it hasn't rained for years. But when it does, the effect is miraculous.
These films all have to do with wildlife and nature. They're from around the world. Many are broadcast films made for TV, like this one, Namib, and it was a Tusker winner 2 years ago. The European broadcast films really stand head and shoulders above many of our American TV films. They deal with nature as it is. You'll learn things you never knew about or read about or saw before. The photography is excellent in these award-winning films, and this film, a story of the creatures that live on the Namib Desert, was filmed all on location. No studio work, no trained animals. That's what we as judges look for in an award-winning wildlife film.
Weevils haven't been seen here since the last rains. Their eggs may lie buried in the sand for years. Then, when it rains, they hatch. And within a few weeks, they mate, lay their eggs, and die. Against possible predators, the blue weevil has only this rather feeble defense.
Amazing, isn't that, Ed?
Boy, beautiful, stunning photography.
Micro photography. Of course, our cameras will be there on Saturday night for the banquet, and I hope everyone will come down. Now, all of the films aren't about insects and plants. A lot of them are, but some of them are about the more exciting things like cheetahs, and we have a film that was a winner in a previous festival by American Sportsman. Take a look at this. It's from Life Cycle of the Cheetah.
hunting cheetah is a study in physical perfection. Holding its tiny head immobile, all else moves with exquisite grace. Its powerful rear legs pumping, its whip-like spine coiling and uncoiling, its forelegs gathering ground, and its long tail working the air like a rudder. The cheetah's 100 pounds flashes across the plains at 70 miles an hour, making it the fastest animal in the world.
If you want to see films like that, come to the International Wildlife Foundation Film Festival next weekend, and how to sign up for the Michigan Outdoors Club. We'd sure like you to join the bandwagon here and support the show. And I'll tell you one thing, everybody's reading them. See you next week.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, and all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. Sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in the state of Michigan.